Hello, welcome back to Live Reality Games Podcast. And my name is Steven, and I'm back today with more Surviving Bloomington content. We are in episode 8, the first merge boot. And who better to talk about this than with Troy? Welcome back, Troy.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
So we last talked during the episode 3 recap, the Double Travel Council, and it's been a little bit since then. So talk to me your thoughts about the rest of the pre-merge and how everything's been shaking out so far.
It's been wild. I mean, I can't tell you how many times like my jaw has dropped just watching and how the game has evolved and the players like they've adapted so well that it's kind of scary. There's no clear person I think at this point coming into this episode like who's truly running the show or who has all the control and like knows where everything is. It's very crazy. Like I'd be very scared to be in this game with them.
Mm-hmm. So has any player really stood out to you, the players you're rooting for, or did you see anyone fall in the pre-merge that you're really bummed about?
So I think fall from the pre-merge. Yeah, I mean, I was a little sad for Griffin when he got voted out. When we talked last, I was kind of rooting for him, and I still am rooting for him, in fact. And then also James. James, I kept going back and forth, like where I felt on him, but I felt he could have had a really solid game. He just unfortunately got found an alliance with like the wrong group of people, I think. Those two people were the ones that like stuck out to me in the pre-merge. I think coming into this episode, I'm still like hardcore fan for Hannah, for Jordan, and I'm very excited that Griffin's back. I think his gameplay is it's very similar to Hannah's in the sense that like they're both more quiet. They're working through the groups, and I respect that a lot.
Yeah, I think Griffin is in a fantastic position. Like I see, like if you look just like because we had 4 brains, 4 bronze, 4 beauties make up this merge, and that we kind of saw this brawn versus brain show off going down, like which is going to end up ahead. And brains are sitting pretty in the middle and kind of deciding where this will go. I'm curious how long they're going to be able to ride that out before either they turn each other or people notice like, wow, we've really ceded a lot of control to these people in the middle.
I feel like they're not as tight as we might think. I mean, as I think back to sort of later in the episode, it feels a little disjointed amongst them. Like they have their own targets within, and I think some of them are trying to figure out who do I need to cut now so that they're less. It's going to be less of a challenge for me in the future, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think Stacy, Stacy has some good reservations considering they voted her out. I think people are already looking at Brains Megan or Sparky. They're already looking at her as like she's a threat. Griffin came out the game, and then Dallas seems pretty keen on having the brains kind of roll together. But the other brains want that. We didn't quite hear from anyone else like what their end game really looked like in terms of final players.
Do you think it's too early to be thinking about end game at this point?
I think it's always nice to have an ideal, but I don't think you should be married to it.
That's a fair point.
I like final 3 is a lot, but if you look at something like maybe this final 5, final 6, I don't mind having kind of that in mind, but like I wouldn't like be married to it because who knows how things are going to change.
Yeah, I think I would have a final 5, maybe final 7 right at this point in the game. Definitely ideas of a final 3, but I would have to think you'd need to be really flexible and go, you know what, anything can still happen. There's so much game left to play.
Yeah, because you don't know who's going to evolve as someone who's now like something more threatening of your game. Because I think like that final 11 through 8 is a really critical point to see who's kind of emerging as ahead. We already had discussion of Adam kind of as like this figurehead people are propping up because everyone's going to want to take him out.
Yeah, which I feel like we had the foundation of that earlier on, and then it just sort of like no one was talking about it. It was like, as a former winner, you would think that everyone would be keeping their eye on that person and like wanting to target them. The fact that like Boogie and Adam as former winners, like no one's really throwing their name out that much. I was like, this is really interesting. Why?
I imagine, because Adam's refusing to throw Boogie's name out, and because Adam is somewhat really pushing that Braun faction. If he's not doing it, no one else from there is, and Boogie's alliance member is not doing it, and that leaves kind of the brains to kind of say, well, do we want to target one of these sides?
Yeah.
So,
but Adam's like, he seems to be extremely charming, but like also like a really good competition person. Like in my mind, at this point, if you have a shot, you take that shot.
Well, there could have been a shot tonight to take that people didn't do, and we'll be able to talk about that.
Yeah.
Um, so when you enter a merge like this, 12 people, like how do you hit the what do you like to do? Like what would your plan be in a situation like this?
I mean, I think you definitely need to shore up any
Mm-hmm.
alliances or the connections you think you had
Mm-hmm.
prior to this merge, and then really figure out who on the other groups, like who's on the outs,
Mm-hmm.
and really try to create those bonds.
Mm-hmm.
You know, similar to I guess like what Hannah was doing earlier in the game, like figuring out like within her own tribe, like
Mm-hmm.
where the groups were, who's leading which group,
Mm-hmm.
and work that way. I mean, there's what 12 people now.
Yep.
Yep. You need the numbers. So you need to find like the people who are at least perceived to be on the outs and try to pull them in,
Mm-hmm.
or find a way to get into that other group so that you play
Mm-hmm.
the middle.
Okay. I appreciate, given that this is a very quick-paced game, they gave some time to say like, hey, we'll have the immunity challenge, and you'll have all the rest of the evening tomorrow morning to like 11
Right?
a.m. is a lot to like figure out the vote and kind of figure out that these new people, because like if you're Stacy, you're meeting like 8 new people for the first time. So
Yeah, it's that is a lot of time. I didn't quite realize like what time of day it was when they had
Mhm.
that, but yeah, that is quite a lot.
And I honestly, it's nice. It's good to have that time, because even then it feels too short to kind of like go and like talk to everyone, try to have these individual discussions. So
Yeah, yeah. Do we know like what their like sleeping arrangements are? I mean, we see like camp life with like a ring of fire and all that, but
Mhm.
we don't see tents. Or
So
they
we saw some. I think we've seen some tents from other tribe scenes. So I believe players have a choice where they can sleep in the ground, but if they're not comfortable, they can go back and they can sleep in their car. So
Oh,
that they have some choice in regards to where they'd sleep. Survivor game means sleeping arrangements matter. I want to be there. I want to be up late. I want to be part of these conversations, and you want to be kind of near allies or near people you want to like. I don't know, have them feel more comfortable with you about.
yeah, and that's I don't remember seeing tents, but I'm sure you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Sleeping in the car, that's interesting that you have that as an option. Like,
And production or Casey, I believe that's what's been told to me, is that players kind of have this option if like to for comfort, which I mean, even sleeping bags make a huge deal, right? Nothing is worse than sleeping on the ground with nothing and being freezing. Having a sleeping bag, oh man, you can actually get sleep, and that makes a world of difference in these games.
yeah, I mean, but to your point, like
Hmm.
you want to be around where everyone is. You don't want to be that outlier.
Hmm.
That's like that's to me seems like the kiss of death.
Yeah, so we've been kind of talking like broad overview of this merged tribe, right? With four brain, four brawn, four beauty. More importantly, we have kind of this brain 2.0 of Hannah, Boogie, Devontae, and Mia. And then we have the brawn 2.0 of Adam, Megan, Rosie, Jordan, Dallas, other Megan. And then we have these 2 returning players, Griffin and Stacy. And it feels like the way these alliances seem to gravitate was kind of along swap tribe lines more than anything else.
Yeah, yeah, which is kind of rough. I mean, I would have liked to see just as a viewer a little bit more ambiguity
Mm-hmm.
personally, but I get it. Like when you're in the game, you want to go with the sure thing.
And 12 people, it's a lot. It's a lot to wrangle and corral. I mean, you heard a lot of confusion, like, where are all the votes going? Where are we doing? It's a lot when you told people. When you get down, like, I feel like 10 players, you can really get a sense of who's there, the dynamics of it. But when you have like 12 or 13, it's kind of just messy.
It's very messy. It's very messy. And for the first time, a lot of these people are trying to work together. So you don't
Mm-hmm.
know what you can trust, what you can't
Mm-hmm.
trust, and where people's loyalties are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was surprised that after that first, because we only have one vote on the Braun 2.0 tribe, and that's the vote where 2 idols were played, barely gets sent home. I was wondering, like, man, are we going to see a divide here when you have Jordan, Dallas, and Megan on one side versus other Megan, Rosie, and Adam, and we don't quite see that, which I find is really interesting.
Do you think it just disappeared, or wasn't important to this storyline?
I think they had time to talk through and kind of figure things out, and I think like paranoia and anxiety make it say like, hey, why don't we keep this group together at least for this initial merge vote and figure things out.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I don't know. I feel like there's still. I don't know. It feels like there's still something brewing, but
mhm.
they're playing it cool. It's a
I mean,
cool, cool.
I feel that's a lot of the season is going to be how much rope do people hand that Braun alliance. How far will people let this trio go? I mean, I don't know.
They seem to be sitting pretty right now.
Mm-hmm. But it's a very precarious sitting pretty. It's very much like all it takes is like the brains faction to kind of say, no, we should get rid of them.
Yep, and if they're smart, they will.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. So starting with the episode, we get some time with Boogie and Megan, kind of like hearing more from those two players and Brains Megan. I'll just call it Braun Megan and Brains Megan. We
Okay.
hear from Boogie kind of like his goal. He kind of wants to play like he won, like his past season, right? He's gonna like kind of be the life of the party, be fun. People will just never want to vote him out as a result of that. Do you think like you should have the same strategy as your winning season, or like?
Oof, I think you need to have an element of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It worked the first time. There's a chance that it will work the second time.
Mm-hmm.
But you do need to be very much aware that you're playing with people you played with before.
Mm-hmm.
People have seen your game, so you can't, like, any tricks that you have, you got to let those go.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same point, like, you're spending so much time around these people, you don't want people to view you as like, I don't know, they don't want to spend time around you. Like if you're causing a lot of chaos and they're not happy being around you, it's an easy way to put a target on your back. So I respect that, like, he's trying to be like cool and calm and collected and like not make it really put a target on his back.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I feel like you have to come in with something new. Otherwise, people are just gonna be like, I know the game you're playing and I'm not gonna fall for it.
Yeah, and I'll be curious to see what Boogie does come up with, right? And we did see him throwing out Megan's name, saying, "Oh man, Megan should have won my season. She played better than me." I thought it was really interesting to see him kind of throwing her under the bus a bit. So we'll just see what happens from there.
I loved it. I mean, I subscribe to the theory that usually the winner of a season is not the best player, right? It's usually the player that gets cut at 3, 4, 5. Those are the ones that are like the best player of the season. So I fully, when he said that, I was like, yeah, I get that. I've said it before myself.
And then we heard from Brains Megan, her focus is more on just like taking this time to really deepen and strengthen these relationships with these people. And for instance, like we see her talking with Adam, that's a person she's really kind of deepen a relationship with. And then we get some discussion over concern over what advantages may be hidden in the game, maybe brought in from people from Redemption.
Yeah. I didn't understand like why she was only targeting one person from Redemption.
I wonder if it's simply because we're seeing some scenes that came from after the challenge, right? Because the challenge didn't happen early into the merge, so a lot of the strategies then really like shaped by, well, Stacy's the only person who we can vote for. We can't vote for Griffin. I wonder if we're seeing because of that.
Possible, but yeah, I feel like anyone coming back from Redemption, you have to ask that question. But
yeah, later on, Stacy lied, says, "Oh, we got our shots in the dark back, right? That's what we got to come back in the game." Is that a lie you'd have told? Would you have said something else? You just said, "Nope, got nothing. Sorry, don't worry about it."
No, I think you have to play into it, and I think it was a great lie. It was a great line. Like, it's something completely plausible. Would make sense, right? Like, even if you didn't play it before, like you lose it when you leave the game, like to have it and come back whole, essentially. Like, I think that's nice, especially specifically for Stacy, who got voted back in versus someone who won their way in. Like, I got voted back in. Okay, so now I'm whole again and I'm on the same footing as everyone else. So I thought it was a great line.
Do you like there being advantages for players who return to a game?
Oh, that's tough. That's tough. Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense. Do I like it if I was playing and I was the one voted back in? Yes, absolutely. 100%. As a player who has to deal with someone being voted back in or coming back into the game, I don't know. I guess if it benefits me, I love it. If it doesn't benefit me, no. Put it that way.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, is just having a second chance advantage enough, and do you need more put on top of it? Or like, I do agree, like, let's not have a revolving door principle to this. That just creates kind of maybe a little bit of a feel bad moment. It's tough.
Yeah. Although, like, when you're coming back in at the merge, when there's so much chaos going on, do you need an advantage when you come back in, right? Is it? I feel like that would be less of an opportunity to be railroaded.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think in survivor options. Tyson wasn't immediately voted out when he came back in Winners at War. Rick Devens made it to the end game when he came back in, and trying to think, Blood versus Water. I think the players who returned stuck around a little bit as well, minus Tina, her second time in, just up and back. But I I don't know if you need an advantage, or maybe like I don't know. Maybe it should be a lighter. Maybe there's better lighter advantages to do versus just hey, just have an idol.
Yeah, yeah. I think the idol it's kind of maybe too big. A
At
second
least this idol
vote,
is limited
solo
to only
vote.
the first two tribal councils, so there isn't that revolving door. Like, so I think that makes it feel a little better.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I did like the idea that both Griffin and Stacy had to use it at the same time, so that they had to be on the same page. So I think that was an interesting twist.
Yeah.
Although I think how it like shaked out with how they're being on separate tribes, so really only one of them was in jeopardy,
Mm-hmm.
made it a more difficult conversation. I would assume. Like, do you
Especially
play?
because I assume Griffin played it for himself. He couldn't play for someone else, right?
Yeah,
So it was kind of wasted on his part
yeah.
as a
I kind of
result.
felt bad for him on that part.
Yeah, but like I don't know. Like I feel like Survivor, you're always about building goodwill, and what you're gonna do, not play your idol. Say sorry, Stacy. I'm gonna keep my void advantage, and your advantage is void too. It's like,
Yeah. Did Stacy really feel like she was in trouble? I mean,
I thought Stacy was in trouble from the episode. I was like, man,
really?
are people gonna be paranoid enough they're gonna stack votes on Stacy? So I was stunned with the outcome of there was no votes on her, but I certainly thought she was getting some votes.
Yeah, I guess I didn't feel like she was really in jeopardy.
Okay, yeah,
I mean,
it's
if you
hard.
get voted back in, like people want you there for a reason, and usually
Mhm.
it's not just to vote you right back out, right?
I also felt like one of the reasons Stacey may have benefited from being voted in, because she didn't have the heavy ties other players did. She wasn't a brains or she, no, sorry, she wasn't a brawn or a beauty, so therefore she was kind of this nice middle ground. So I think she was attractive for those reasons. And you know, even if she did waste her idol and burn it needlessly, it's out, it's gone, and now no one's going to come after. It's like we were worried that Stacey has another advantage in her pocket. No one's going to do that. People are like, well, we just saw her play the idol. Griffin was forced to play it too. There's not we don't we feel better that they're at parity with all of us now, so we don't have to target them needlessly that they get something out.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But,
I don't know. Still want like hold on to that idol as long as you can.
I mean, so speaking of idols, we get an idol update early in this episode where two players having idols. So first of all, Adam finds the merge idol, and then Megan, Brains Meg, reveals she found an idol at the swap, and so Megan now has her second idol of the game. Adam is sitting on an idol that we later hear he hands off to Braun Megan to hold on to. What are your thoughts on this?
It's a lot of idols to keep track of.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a fake idol in there too.
Yeah, so there's a fake idol. Like we don't get a full picture about it, but since Jordan knows about it, I'm assuming Braun Tribe 2.0 makes a fake idol, hides it in like the box where the extra vote was or something like that.
Yeah.
They stage finding it in front of Stacy, and then give the fake idol to Stacy after Stacy disposed of the box, similar to when she disposed of like the box earlier. We've seen Stacy disposing of people as like evidence often, and they say, "Oh, Stacy," Megan's like, "We want you to have this." I mean, Stacy's no stranger to fake idols. When she played Real Fit, she had people handing her fake idols to try to use it. I'm curious to see if that storyline goes anywhere with her actually thinking it might be real idol, but like people, unless you're very close to them, do not hand you idols.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I thought that was really interesting in that position. Like, what do you do when someone hands you an idol? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Adam handing Megan an idol is like, okay, that's definitely solidifying that relationship. And we see how strong that has become.
Mm-hmm.
But handing Stacy an idol, like, I mean, I just felt like that was like a mind game being played that was really well done. But to your point, Stacy's no stranger to these
Yeah.
LRGs, and like I didn't know about her being handed fake idols in Real Foot, so that's interesting. Like
Mm-hmm.
for her, like you see that and you go, is this real?
Yeah.
And I like if someone hands me a fake idol, that immediately would like probably raise red flags. Like, why are you handing me this? Like, are you trying to like, I don't know, pull the wool over my eyes or something like that?
I think what you need to do is you need to like take that person idol hunting, take them idol hunting to the area where you hid the fake idol, like lead the horse to water and then make them find it and say, wow, look what I have, right? Like I think if that was what happens, right? I think then Stacy would believe she had an idol, but like finding something, handing it off, that's a little
Yeah.
hard, especially like how distinct the idols are this season.
Yeah.
Right? And I think Stacy's probably seen them played from the jury.
Has she?
I don't know. There's a chance that Stacey doesn't know what a real idol looked like, but there's a chance she does as well. So, but
Yeah.
we didn't get a sense from her confessionals. There's none of like, oh, they're trying to play me off. She's like, they gave me this idol. So
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. Like if you're taking idol hunting and like led to it, great. Like that completely plausible. Like less reason to question it. But handed one like that's, and especially not someone that you're very connected to already in the game. Like it seems very sus to me. So I loved it, but as a player, I'd be like, what's going on here?
I could see Jordan saying, wow, I really wanted this to have a more impact deeper in the game than like immediate, but yeah, what can you do?
Yeah. But like all these idols, like I'm really curious to see how many, like I haven't been able to fully track like who knows what.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's overlap and I'm not quite clear on if like it's really an isolated knowledge, if that makes sense.
So the Adam's idol, Braun, Megan knows.
Right.
I think so. It's just the two of them. Brain's
Rosie doesn't know
Megan.
about it?
I don't think we're told of anyone else knowing about it. It's just those two.
Okay.
Megan on Brains has not given us a sense of anyone else knowing about her new idol. She probably told Jordan. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I feel like she told him.
But we don't know who else knows about her idol. And then Mia's idol, I thought only Mia knew about it, but there was a conversation with like Adam briefly talking about Mia's idol. So like it's hard to get a sense of how secret that idol is, to be honest.
Yeah. I feel like Adam definitely knows about Mia's idol, and he's told people. Like I feel like based off of the votes in this episode, people know that she has it and they're trying to flush it. So I feel like that is probably the least.
Which was strange that like they just didn't go all in on her and put 5 votes on her, 3 votes on Devontae, and like see, and if Mia plays it, Devontae goes home.
Yeah.
So future problems for that tribe. This brings us then to our immunity challenge. Now, this challenge originally debuted in Australian Survivor 2017, where you're doing a group endurance challenge, holding like wooden blocks against you and your neighbor for a long period of time. Have you seen this challenge before or played in this challenge?
I have not played this challenge, but I have seen it in other LRGs. Yeah. I think it's great.
I love the concept of a group endurance challenge. I think the only problem with LRGs running this challenge, I probably convetsed before about this, is this challenge can last a while. Right? And LRGs, you tend to be actually on a pretty strict schedule. They vote people out quick enough and make it to continue. And so you end up having to generally, like, you either make the challenge brutally hard, or you have to technicality people out. Say, all right, everyone, like, arms fully extended, can't look down, and then can't, elbows locked, and like you kind of knock people out based off like, sorry, you didn't follow this one small rule, because people can go a while on this challenge.
I've seen it where they have to just use their fingertips, which I think is a lot harder. Like at least if palms, like you can put pressure.
And I've seen like survival challenge. They've put weighted bags on top of it too, so there's a whole balance component that really expedited it.
Yeah, ouch.
And like even like Adam Bradford, who played Real Foot and also Survival Challenge, because Survival Challenge, when they did it my season after I got voted out, he's like, I think he still said like, I have some pain still from competing in that challenge for like 40 minutes.
Wow.
So it can still be a brutal challenge. So I believe Hannah has done this challenge before.
Okay.
And I want to believe Stacy did this challenge in Survivor BC Rock Rain Valley with me.
Okay.
And so at least that we know that, so even though it's a new challenge to the show, we know 2 players have at least experienced it in a different setting. And one final unique twist is players will drop out at regular intervals from the edges. So normally, sometimes in this challenge, like there's a whole strategy like, all right, everyone, we're gonna have people drop in strategic places. That way it's only one hand for each person. And the rules of this challenge nullified that and said, hey, we're gonna have people dropping at set times. They must be from the edge of your chain.
Yeah.
and we'll go till there's only two people left, and then we just go with them.
I liked that little twist on it
Mhm.
simply because we haven't seen it, or at least like I haven't seen it, and I'm
Mhm.
presuming most people haven't either. Is that it makes it a little harder to strategize, right? Not
Yes.
everyone's gonna have the same strategy on how to
Mhm.
really, I don't want to say like cheat the comp, but like,
Mhm.
we all are fans. We watch the show, we watch maybe LRGs, we participate. So like we've seen it. So we have an idea of like what's the best strategy to approach it. With
Mhm.
something new, everyone's like trying to figure out
Mhm.
what makes the most sense. So from that perspective, I was like really smart on Casey's part.
Yeah, because in the past, like what you do is you have weak tribe members say, all right, just drop it immediately, right? You have someone who's like, I can't do this. And this force is like, all right, let's say we have two weak tribe members. We can only drop one out at the 5-minute mark. Someone is going for 10 minutes, and that's going to be really hard.
Yeah. 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 It seems like there's no easy way to start that.
Hmm.
After that first like 10-minute interval, yeah, it probably would get easier, but
Hmm.
it didn't last that long.
Well, especially because even at the beginning, we saw a lot of discussion who's dropping out from which side. It's just like, all right, who is feeling like they need to go, need to drop out first.
I was a little
And so,
surprised by that, in fact.
um, it's not a fun challenge. I have I have sucked both times I've done it, and it's painful, and I don't do endurance challenge pain well.
I don't know many people that do, but yeah, I can understand that.
um, so we see these two groups. So Group A, Boogie, Griffin, uh, Braun, Megan, Rosie, Dallas, and Jordan, with the central people going to be Rosie and Megan as the people who are going to stay the longest. The other group where we have Stacy, Hannah, Adam, Devonte, Mia, Brains, Megan, with Adam and Devonte taking the key position for that tribe.
Yep.
And we start the challenge. We get to the first drop point, and on the group B, Mia, who's not on the edge, drops, and we don't ever get a sense of what on earth happened there.
No, although I did rewatch it right before jumping on this podcast with you, and it's like Mia was in the process of asking a question, right? They say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, someone dropped, and she was asking a question. It kind of looked like she lost her focus.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of hints at that later in the episode too, but I really feel like she was asking a question like, okay, what are we doing, or how are we going to do
Mm-hmm.
this? And just like the moment, like brain thinking about one thing and body doing something completely different. At least that
Mm-hmm.
was my take on it.
I I don't know because later on, like she's asked like at tribal counseling what happened there, and we don't really get a very coherent answer as to what happened. And I guess you chalk up to like this is only day 3, and it's still an exhausting experience, right? Because you're still sleeping outside, sleeping bags or whatever, anything you're having. It's not you're not getting as much sleep you'd like, or not as good sleep. It's probably cold, and it's hard to get a sense of how much food they've had. We know they had like a pizza at the merge. We know they had a Lunchable yesterday, so they're eating something, but you're not eating a ton. So
No.
you're kind of limited on a lot of these things, and the general exhaustion, paranoia, it can still get to you after 3 days' time. And I feel like maybe that's a sense of things, but it was just so surprised, just like, oh, well, challenge over.
Yeah. I wonder. I mean, I had a lot of thoughts about this, thinking like, did she intentionally drop it? Like, was she trying to target someone in that group? Right, thinking that she was going to be safe and like she can get one of her targets out. There's one thought. The other thought I had was like when she wasn't really able to fully explain,
Mm-hmm.
is that she was really actually starting to create this narrative of like, to your point, like I'm exhausted, I don't quite know what I'm doing. My brain is like really downplaying
Mm-hmm.
her smarts.
Yeah. So I mean, this matches Tyler's question here of like, could Mia have thrown the challenge on purpose? Um, I would love if there was a Mia who's like, I am totally throwing this challenge and I'm just gonna play it off. People are gonna believe me, and then Endgame's like, no, here's what happened, and I got the person I wanted out as a result. Like maybe she's like, Adam needs to go. Adam can't be immune. I'm throwing the challenge to take Adam out and really help drive that to happen. I mean, that would be pretty amazing to see. But we just don't hear anything about that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
If it is what happens.
I mean, that was my thought. It's like it just seemed really too easy.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's definitely, the narrative I get from her is like a very strong competitor,
Mm-hmm.
and for her to be in the position that she was in that line.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't in line to be dropping early. So like that got me thinking, okay, she is going to be there for the long haul.
Mm-hmm.
And then for that to happen, I was like, I felt a little bit staged.
Yeah, especially when like 12 people, 6 people being immune. I mean, man, I really want immunity at a merge vote like that when half the tribe's immune and there's so little options. I don't want to be on the table. As much as I want Adam out, it's really hard to let myself be exposed like that.
No, I agree. It's very risky. But if it works, it's also a great story point if you get to the end.
Yeah, it worked for Gator last season. It can work for me too.
But she has an idol. So she wouldn't be, if she felt that she was in danger, she could easily save herself.
Yeah. And I want to give props. She doesn't play her idol again. And it's every time she doesn't play it, it's like, that's brave.
It is brave. It is brave. I do like very much that at the merge, only half of the tribe is up for grabs, essentially. It really helps, I think, create that paranoia and the stress, but also focus people. So I think we could have seen a much more disparate vote if all 12 were, or all 11 rather, were up for grabs to be voted for. So I did like that element for it.
It does make it focus even easier. And honestly, I don't know if it would have been different had the other 6 been exposed. I think it would have still been a very similar vote.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think we might have seen a new name in there though.
So so we have Boogie, Griffin, Braun, Megan, Rosie, Dallas, and Jordan. Which of those names think would have been tossed around more? Griffin, maybe, because he came back?
I could have seen Griffin being in that mix again. I could have also seen Dallas join that mix.
Maybe. I don't know. I still think it would have boiled down to Adam Devontae, like finally clashing like it did.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense that those would be the big names to be thrown out there, but yeah, I don't know.
Had that group lost, Boogie, Griffin, Megan, Rosie, Dallas, and Jordan, who do you think would have been the vote out?
I think the conversation probably about Griffin having something would have really swirled around a lot. So they probably would put a few votes there, but not the majority. I could see it go. The names coming up would be Rosie and Boogie.
Yeah. Or I think Boogie would have been in a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
I think I don't know how much capital Adam would want to spend to save Boogie.
Yeah, at this point, like you want that shield around for a little bit longer, but if it's going down that way, like don't jump on that sinking ship.
Yep. So all right, and so we get to the scramble again. 6 people exposed: Stacy, Hannah, Adam, Devontae, Mia, Megan. In practicality, no one ever says Hannah or Megan's name. It's Stacy, it's Adam, it's Devontae, and Mia are the 4 names that are really circulating more than any other name.
Yeah, I mean, I'm impressed that Hannah's name. I'm not hiding like my fandom for Hannah in this season. I'm really impressed how her name has not come up, right? And I was actually thinking, like, as I'm watching it, we don't see her much. We don't hear from her until like 35 minutes into it.
She's like the last one before we get to intermission, I think.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, where's Hannah this episode? It was very fascinating for me.
So who would you want to target of the 6?
Ooh, I think I would be Adam and Devontae. Like, I probably, if I was playing, I probably would want to try to align with those 2 earlier anyway. But I feel like those 2 are probably the biggest threats. Although Mia really is coming up on my radar as like someone who you really do need to watch out for.
Why?
I feel like she is playing a really smart strategic game in that she's popping up in all these conversations, but she's pushing a story. At least this is the way I'm seeing it. Is like she's pushing a story and really laying good foundation for further in the game. She just needs to get there, but like the story points that she's putting out there, the seeds, kind of like what Adam was doing in this episode as well. Like just a little bit here, a little bit there, and like letting that seed grow.
That's interesting because I'm seeing Mia as being very much like very much left out of what's going on. Like I think players, she's being stonewalled against a lot of other players.
Oh, I think she is. I
Yeah.
don't disagree with that. But her gameplay, like what she's doing because she's left out,
Mm-hmm.
I find very smart.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Interesting. So I figured like the best way to probably approach kind of this post challenge scramble is just kind of walk through player by player what they're thinking, what they're doing. And
Yeah.
let's start at the top of the totem pole. We have Adam. Adam, he's the figurehead of the Braun tribe. He's running this Braun 2.0 alliance, and he wants Devontae and maybe Stacy, and he trusts Megan a lot to hand her an idol.
I mean, good for him to trust.
Mhm.
I mean, it takes a lot, right? You have to feel really secure.
I was wondering as soon as it was like, oh no, is Braun Megan gonna blindside Adam and take this idol for herself? But we're not seeing that happen just yet.
No, I don't get the sense that that's going to happen yet. We don't know what's going to happen, obviously, but
Mhm.
it definitely, like, if I was Megan, I have now a big threat that I'm using as a shield,
Yeah.
and I have their idol. Like, if I can hold on to that, that's killer.
So in terms of Braun Megan, she does say her number one is Adam, right? And he's a shield, and so she's not looking to discard him,
Yeah.
right? Because he's really good for her game. And she's also loyal to Rosie and Jordan, interestingly, but she notes she's very leery of Jordan's outside connections. And
Yeah.
probably rightfully so.
Oh, I absolutely. I mean, we know that there are connections there that are really
Mhm.
impacting her game. I found it very interesting that she's obviously, like, it didn't shock me that she was loyal to Adam, but Rosie being in that mix, like, we know
Mhm.
that Adam and Rosie are tight,
Mhm.
but that she's not fully on board with Rosie made my ears go, what's that about?
Yeah. Well, I think because next we hear from Rosie, and I think Uh, so he says he wants to take Adam and Megan to the final five, right? He very clearly his Braun 3 he wants to roll with the final five, but he recognizes their threats as well. So it's a question of who is his other two wants to take, and he wants Jordan with him as well. Given that they played very tightly with each other their previous season, and while things didn't work out, it was like he was on the sinking ship that Jordan was on as well, and so he wants to kind of do things better with her this season. So I thought that was interesting.
I did too. I loved it. I loved it. I mean, I'm a fan of Jordan right now,
Mhm.
so hearing anyone that wants to keep her in the game and take her far, I'm for it.
And so I wonder who Rosie's fifth in his final five is, or it's just like, don't care. We can take anyone at that point.
I feel like it is like just anyone that's there, anyone that's not going to target him.
Hmm.
Do
Yeah.
you?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, like, in terms of those three, I would be. I feel like the way Megan's saying through her game is she has a good shot against Adam. Like, if she sits by Adam and says, yes, but this is my figurehead, but maybe she gets burned saying this is my shield, but whoops, my shield's with me at the final tribal council. Was he really a shield?
Yeah, I feel like if it's her and Adam at the end,
Mhm.
she will be able to sell that story much better.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like she is actually more in control than
Hmm.
people realize. Like, everyone
Hmm.
is looking at Adam as the one being in control, but at least what we're getting in this episode is like she's actually really pushing
Hmm.
that narrative and that story. So I was like, props to her. Um, but I wanted to ask you about Rosie
Yeah.
and his strategic chops.
Hmm.
I don't I didn't get much in this episode of really outside of like thinking of his final
Hmm.
five. I don't really have a good sense anymore of like where his head's at. How do you feel about that?
I think Rosie's game will really be apparent when Adam gets voted out. I think once Adam goes and we see what happens next, and because I imagine with Adam goes, I don't know if we're going to see a Braun boom, boom, boom kind of picked off. I
Mm,
imagine we're going to see something much more fluid and chaotic once Adam goes and people kind of realign themselves. I think that it'll be really telling to see what he does then, but I don't know what his plans are besides like, yeah, let's just write it out as of right now.
interesting. So you think Adam's gonna be voted out, and you think Adam's gonna be out before Rosie?
Yes.
No
I,
hesitation.
Yeah, I really feel like we're kind of being set up for Samuel Del Sur, where we see Josh Canfield and Jeremy Collins go out back to back, and they're the two players who've been running things till, and then they're gone. You're like, oh shoot.
Yep. And a whole
And
new
maybe it's
game.
not. I don't know if Adam's going out next episode, but I think by final 10 he's gone.
All right. We'll have to check back in, see if you're right.
Yeah, and I could be very wrong because I'm terrible at predicting all things Survivor. That's what I've learned. Um, Jordan, we check in with, and so she's again. We hear a lot of concern of what are these unknown advantages coming from redemption, and she says like, what if they have some sort of shared idol they have to use, and she's not very far off, given that it ends up being a all or nothing idol that is even better than one shared idol. It's basically two shared idols.
Yeah, she was very smart on that. I was like, oh, how did you know that? Was it just a pure luck guess, or did she hear something, or I don't know.
I don't know either, and we don't really get a sense of where Jordan is strategically, but from the peripherals we can see like she is good with the brawn, right? Because both Megan and Rosie are strongly wanting to keep her. We know Brains Megan is also like ride or die. We know that Hannah has been like latching onto the Jordan train, the propeller through the game, and so Jordan has a lot of options. It feels
she seems really well insulated across tribal lines. So I was like, yeah, it's good for her. I mean, again, very happy that she's got people wanting to protect her.
In terms of like we from Stacy, we hear kind of about her lying about what advantage she got back from redemption. We talked about before the shot in the dark idol, and for her, it's just like a lot of concern about like, do I need this now? Do I need to play this now?
Yeah, and I think it's a fair concern that she has, right? You're coming back into the game. Yes, you were voted back in because people wanted you, but you don't have the same connections. You haven't been playing the same game with these people as long as others. It definitely it has to give you pause, flat out, right? I think she was smart, as we said, like the lie that she told. But again, I didn't get the sense that she was in trouble this episode.
I guess one of the challenges is it's hard to know like where is she looking to fall in strategically, right? Because she is a free agent, and we kind of know there's kind of roughly 2-ish factions, and I think she's kind of defaulting to that Braun faction that just has the numbers right now and just kind of waiting things out.
Which is smart, right? You're coming in as a free agent. You go where the numbers are, and you just latch there and hope for the best. What I was reminded of rewatching this episode is that she has like this infectious smile. She's always grinning, and it's very disarming. I think like as a weapon or a tool in this game, like, and it feels very genuine, at least on the screen. Like it's like, I was like, good for you. Like just keep smiling through it, and like whatever's going on inside, no one's gonna know because they're just seeing that. And I was like, kudos to you.
And that's why it's fun to play with Stace in these games.
If I ever encounter her in a game, I'll have to keep this in mind.
Inevitably, you will. Don't trust me. In terms of Dallas, a lot of his discussions about like why he needs Devontae gone, and frankly, everything makes sense, right? He burned Devontae in the last round before the merge, and like as much as he wanted to work with Devontae preseason, there's just no hope for that right now.
Yeah, I mean, I get it from Dallas's point of view, and for his game, Devontae's not in that narrative for him. Even if you want it to be, you have to play the game that is being handed to you, right? The hand that you have. And sometimes it's better not to have that. I don't want to say weight or that tie or tether from something that you said pregame, right? You have to play what's in the moment and what's going to do the best. What is going to help you in the long term? And unfortunately, it's not Devontae.
Because in the world where Devontae wins out, Adam goes home, Devontae will eventually come headhunting for Dallas. It is inevitable.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's smart for Dallas to like say, time to cut. Let's go.
Now, one of the big mysteries of this episode was Dallas's extra vote.
Yeah.
And so we heard several episodes ago in the swap, Griffin found an extra vote in the swap tribes camp, right? And he gets voted out, and I assume it went null when he got voted out with it. I speculated with whoever I was talking to at the time that there's likely another one of those at the swap Braun camp. And I'm assuming, yes, there was, and Dallas found it, and it expired at Final 12.
That would be a logical assumption based off of what we saw this episode. I thought I had missed it. Like, I just wasn't following closely enough, but yeah, you make me feel better. Thank you, Steven.
Yeah, because I was just like, where did this come from? And I was like, okay, my only guess that it came from here, because it's like, did Griffin bring it back and give it to Dallas? No, that didn't make any sense. So I was trying to figure out what was going on with that.
Yeah, and it was not a very well kept secret. People knew, right?
Yeah.
His alliance, he was very forthright with it, and everyone's like, "Yep, okay, it's got to be used this one. This is how we're gonna do it."
Yeah, and if you have an extra vote that is very limited and expiring at the verge, and also like this, it also probably meant that had the Braun tribe gone back to tribal council, another original Braun might have been going home,
Yeah.
right? Between Dallas, Jordan, and Megan, Brains Megan having three of them plus an extra vote, they can 2-2, and that they can 2-2 whenever they want, or just like block vote a 4-3, and life goes on.
That would have been an interesting one.
Yeah,
but
but
glad we didn't see
we'll
it.
never know. Yeah, and I think this also answers the other question of, did Griffin's vote when he won the challenge, was it void, or is it still usable when he came back to the game? I think the answer is it's void, because there's no discussion of Griffin's extra vote.
Yeah, I think that the working theory would be like, when you leave the game, anything you have, it's gone, right? Your bullet, any advantage you have, maybe it gets replayed or replanted. That would make sense, but I don't think like when you're in redemption, like you shouldn't have it.
Yeah, there's still questions about the bullet though, because both Griffin and Stacey had used their bullets, so it was and not a question that could ever get answered.
No, because we don't. Do we see Griffin's bullet count in his confessional? I don't think we.
No, because he gave it to Stacey.
Ah,
he gave it to Stacey, and then she played 2 bullets when she went to tribal council.
Gotcha. Yep. Okay.
So, we talked about Mia already. Again, like a lot of her discussion is concerned about playing the idol. She comes across as out of the loop, but probably because everyone is keeping her out of the loop, because she is the backup vote essentially.
Yeah, yeah, and I think she realizes that, but she's counting the numbers. Like I do think she is really more calculated than people are giving her credit for, or that's why they're keeping her out, because she is so smart. But if no one's talking to you, or you're getting the sense like the numbers are not lining up and matching up, like, yes, do you play the idol? Do you not play the idol? But I don't know. Like, I feel like she has more of a pulse than we're getting a sense of.
2 more people. Devontae. We spent some time with Devontae, and Devontae knows he's in trouble. Like, he's just like, I'm nervous. This is the most nervous I've ever been, because people are gunning for him and there are no outs. And it's kind of like, should he go for Stacey? Does he go for Adam? And at the end of the day, the answer is, if he'd gone for Mia, like in blindsided Mia, given how the votes are split, things would have been okay. But you simply never know what the votes will be like, right?
No.
So you had no idea it was going to be such a close call.
I mean, I think that's the heartbreaking part of it. Like, he could have stayed in the game if he just voted Mia, but you don't know. You really don't know. But I think his intent to vote Adam was the right way to go.
Yeah.
I mean, if people are targeting really strong threats on multiple levels, like, who is like your equal, your comparison? And for Devontae, it's Adam. So that's who you push that story, you get that narrative out there, and hope that it sticks. But yeah, I was glad that it wasn't a blindside for him, right? Like, he knew that his name was up there, and it very well could have been him.
And then probably the best, my favorite confessional, your favorite confessional, we get a long confessional from Hannah about what she's doing, what she's thinking, and what she's up to. Tell me what you love about this.
Oh my gosh, where to start? Like, I'm continually impressed with her pulse on the game, right? She has clearly identified where everyone's heads are at. And I'm sure other people are thinking the same thing within the game, but like, when she's expressing it, like, you see her mind working, like, okay, this group and here's how that intersection is going to work. And the narrative that she's already starting to craft. I think for her, being that outsider, from like not having played Surviving Bloomington before, is actually now a big asset, right? Because they're all looking at each other based off of previous games, and what has happened, how they were burned, who burned them, and no one knows her game. So all they're going off of is she's and giving so little, but just enough that they're like, okay, she's good. I've got her in my corner, and they're not looking at her. So like, that I'm loving. And I'm loving how she is inserting herself into multiple groups, but just a little here and just a little there. I've got my tight core, but like she's pulling people in. Like I can see her end game forming.
I loved your discussion where she basically says, like, I see Adam as the figure, and he's the sun that everyone's revolving around. But everyone is eyeing the sun and how to take out the sun because everyone wants that move on their resume. So she knows Adam's days are numbered. She sees that and calls that, and also says, like, here we go. Flynn says with the on Team Hannah right here, hashtag Team Hannah. And she also notes that that the real problem isn't Adam, it's Megan Wolf, who's right behind Adam, calling the shots for him. Now, I will say, are you muted by any chance?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
It's true.
I will say, I think there's two things I really wanted to hear from Hannah. First, where does she see as the power that she needs to stand with and get to, right? Because I think both the Ritual Tribe and the Merge, she had quickly identified, or the Swap, she's like, here are the people I need to talk to and getting good with. And we didn't get a sense of that from this confessional. And I wonder if it's just like with Jordan and Brains Megan, that's where she's kind of latching on to right now. I'm curious to see where she wants to get herself positioned, because I like her idea of popping off the final 7, but I want to know, like, is that gonna be too late if she waits for that? Like, where does she need to be at the final 7 to make it happen? I want to get a better sense of what her ideal final 7 looks like for her to be successful.
So I think she's, if I'm reading this right, like the Megan and Jordan, like that's where she wants to go long term. But by her spilling the tea to the original Braun about like the fake Devontae story, like, and that was, who was there? It was Adam, Megan.
So that was Rosie, Megan, and Dallas.
Rosie, Megan, and Dallas. So that's 3 plus the other 2. That's 5, and her 6. Like if those 5 are tight with her and like trust her, everything else can go by the wayside, and she's good.
Yeah, that was my favorite thing, because last episode when I saw Devontae telling that story, I was like, as much as I like that story, the problem is redemption, and that's the exact thing that says, like, I'm not down for that because redemption is an issue, and I just immediately like get trust, say like, this is what's going on, I'm with you, and I was like, that was beautiful.
Maybe I'm naive, but like I too loved that story. I thought it was really smart, but looking back at his wording of it and like how he expressed it, he said someone. So it could have been really anyone from Redemption, and theoretically that person didn't share it with everyone else at Redemption. Like, I'm going to give this advantage to Devontae. So I think there is an element of plausibility.
No, because Griffin was watching that tribal council and he saw Devontae play shots in the dark. Yeah. So like if the people at Redemption weren't actively watching tribal council, there's a lot more you can get away with.
Yeah.
No, right. But the problem is you have Redemption. Basically, they're kind of watching the sidelines, almost like a proto jury in a sense, seeing what's happening, what's going down, and they have that information. And so, as much as it's fun seeing them in the background, seeing them watch, it does really change what players can say or do, because all that's going to be public knowledge. You can't lie.
Yeah. No, that's it. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You watch much more clearly than I do.
I mean, because like there's I just remember Griffin going like, "Oh my gosh, that's Devontae's playing his shots in the dark."
Wow.
I think we briefly get intermission with some fun facts. I wonder are intermissions here to stay, Troy?
Honestly, I kind of hope not. I mean, I like that the fun facts were in there. It made it even a little bit easier to, quickly, do a bio break or whatnot. But I was like, I don't know that we need them. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I'm ambivalent. It was a surprise to see the second time. I like the fun facts. They kind of added some fun history to the show, which I appreciate given the previous episodes aren't aired. I do agree that I'm watching through YouTube, we're watching YouTube, and so it's always easy to pause and come back if need be. But I do appreciate they are kind of using the way to say, hey, apply. Here's a QR code. Come join us our next season we're casting. So
no, I do like that. I mean, but you could do that in the beginning. You could do it at the end. I mean,
yeah,
but I did like the fun facts. It was just nice history. But I don't know.
Yeah, we need now we need to know like who did people get the original torches for this season, or were there fight over torches? Who did Hannah Connor and Stacy take as a torch? Was there any drama around torches? I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Because the Jordan taking Adams from 3 to 4, and now here in 5. Like, did Adam go back for his torch? I mean, if I was a former winner playing in an All-Star season, yeah, I'd go back for my torch. Like, sentimentality, good luck, whatever you want to call it.
So I did that. That was fun to learn. Tribal Council. I think we need to talk about the opening shot, and it's also the opening picture of the season as well. Is the magic 8-ball in the grass. I mean, much like Surviving Bloomington has had these really cool nature shots, which I wonder, like, did KC take those shots himself? Are they from B-roll footage? I don't know. But we have this shot of the magic 8-ball in the grass. And is that just like you find and harvest in Bloomington, Indiana? Is that just like part of the crop that you grow there? I don't understand. Help me with this, Troy.
I mean, I loved it. I love the nature shots, and I want to talk about the cicada as well. But the 8-ball.
Oh gosh, oh gosh, that was horrible.
I do not like cicadas, but like it was kind of beautiful, I have to say. But the 8-ball, like for me, it really encompassed this episode in the chaos of that first vote after a merge, right? Because it's like when you have that 8-ball, you're shaking it up, you're asking the question like, probably so, or outlook doesn't look so good. And I feel like that was like really telling for how everyone was sort of feeling, right? Adam saying like, I'm not going to bring my bag because people know if I bring a bag, I've got something. So I'm going to hand it off my idol there. I always bring my bag because that's just, I don't trust. So I felt like the 8-ball and like how people use that magic 8-ball was very indicative of like where people's minds were at.
I love the fact that you've made this into a metaphor for the game itself. Surely exactly what Casey was planning behind it. I mean, I'm wondering, like, man, is it like Chekhov's gun? Is there a magic 8-ball that a player will find later on? They shake it, say, like, am I immune? Am I not? Like a more elaborate flip coin, like sources say, yes, you're immune. Congratulations. I'm really curious to see if it does reappear in future episodes.
That would be awesome. I'd be shaking that thing all until I get the answer I need.
I don't think there's anything I want to bring up from the discussion from players at Tribal Council. We talked about Mia's answer about what happened to challenge. You're kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah. What about Boogie? Right? Boogie's like talking about the split vote. I felt like he was like, I don't want to say playing dumb, but I'm like, of course you thought about it. We know you.
I did love that. It was like, he's like, what was split vote? Boogie was like, wow, yeah, that'd be a great idea. Totally. All the world's a stage, and no bigger stage than Tribal Council with how you talk and discuss things.
Right? I mean, but it's like, it felt genuine. And I was like, that's a really interesting play. Like, these people know you're smart. So for you not to think of a split vote, I don't know. That would raise some flags, I would think.
So when people go to the voting booth, we saw in the pre-merge that there were mutiny evangelists hidden in the little chest, and Brains Megan goes first, opens the chest, boom, gets a shot in the dark, pockets it. I do love the fact that they are putting more shots in the dark in the game. Like, absolutely love it. I've kind of conveyed that the chest is such an obvious place, but I did love Boogie finding one in the skull and it being hidden in the skull. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. The little chest does feel obvious, but it made me think like, okay, if as a future player, always be the first one to go vote, because you never
I don't know how you get to be the first, but always be the first.
Yeah, like it's just like, oh, okay. I do too love that the shots in the dark, like more coming out, because it will make, I hope, for a little bit more interesting.
I think it was Jordan who found it, not Megan. My bad, I was misreading notes. Jordan gets the extra shot in the dark.
Jordan, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I did like that. I mean, I kind of would have liked to see like a clue, maybe something very like that they have to decipher to know where it is, or like a lockbox or something like there.
I want to I want to see a lockbox with a combination of like that says try once. And everyone has one shot, and like the solution or the code to how to get that, either you get it from challenges or hidden at try camp or something like that. I want to see something like that at play.
Yeah, that would be interesting, because then everyone knows it's there.
Have you heard what they're doing for idols this next Survivor season?
The birdcage, right?
The birdcage, yeah. So each tribe starts with a birdcage with an idol in it, and it's locked, and like they have, and like I just like, yes, love it.
I'm curious to see how that plays out, because that's high risk but high reward, which is what they're going for.
We also have to talk about the David in the room.
Who?
Exactly. So Mia goes up to vote, and she writes down David and starts talking about voting for David. And the production's like, "Who's that?" And Mia's like, "I mean, there's no David here." And then she gets a new part of paper, writes down Adam, votes for Adam.
Honestly, when that happened, I was like, "Wait, am I not tracking someone? Like, is there a player that did I get confused?" I was like, I honestly thought I was having like a senile moment.
I mean, I was questioning myself too. And like, I have a spreadsheet with this cast. I'm like, my gosh, it's like, is this someone's nickname I'm not getting? Right? Because we already have Rosie, Andrew, Sparky, Brains, Megan. Like, there's a couple of variants of names running around. I was just like, and you know, like, it's hard to learn people's names, right? Especially when it's a bunch of strangers.
Yep.
But it's also the All-Star season, and like, this is the former winner. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's not like they've played Bloomington before. Like, if it was Hannah or Stacy or Connor, like, who hadn't played Bloomington before, I can see that a little bit more.
Oh, speaking of names, did you catch the Merge Tribe name?
Was it Bingo?
It was Bingo. And I'm like, do you know where we heard Bingo before? When Hannah couldn't remember Boogie's name, she was calling him Bingo. Did Hannah name the Merge Tribe and name it after her accidental misremembering what Boogie's name is? I need to know.
That's true. We didn't hear about that, did we?
No, it just at the beginning was just like, this is the Bingo Tribe. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I wonder what we'll have to ask Casey, like, where that came from.
But after everyone votes, we see Stacy and Griffin play their idols. As you mentioned, you didn't think Stacy was in trouble. I thought there was a decent chance given the conversation. And honestly, a 1 in 6 shot of going home, it's not a bad way to play your idol, right? Versus a normal 1 in 12.
No, I mean, if it was 1 in 12, I don't think she should have done it, right? And certainly at the merge, usually, I don't know, you'll probably disagree with me, but like, you don't go for the easy vote. That can happen later, right? Stacy hasn't really, and I don't mean this to be mean or negative, but like, based off of the rest of the players, she has not stood out as like someone who is going to win competitions, right? So you don't have to worry so much about an individual, although they do say like she's good at puzzles.
She's good at puzzles.
Right. But so that's one, but you have many other opportunities. Like, to me, her threat level is so much lower than others. Like, go for someone that is going to actually change the trajectory of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I do say, like, getting that out of the game was mentioned before. People are now going to be able to talk about what did they get. They're like, all right, she had something, she played it, it's gone. If we're not worried about this on an advantage, that's not a reason to target anymore. We need something else to target her for. And I think that's better from that perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. It helps her narrative and her story. But, you know, I guess I also kind of feel bad for Griffin having to use his idol when he didn't need it.
So, game of votes ends up being a 7 votes Devontae, 3 votes Mia, 3 votes Adam. The Adam votes were Devontae, Boogie, and Mia. They stuck together. Hannah jumped ship. The Mia votes were Rosie, Megan, and Dallas as a backup. And then Devontae was Griffin, Brains, Megan, Adam, Stacy, Dallas's second vote because he played his extra vote. And then Jordan and Hannah also voted Devontae, who were Devontae's number 1 allies.
Yeah. Do you think it was just to save themselves?
You know, I have to imagine I don't know how, we don't get a sense of how aware Hannah and Jordan were over the split. No. And that it was going to be a 7-3-3. Because so if they do, because if they did, but if they did switch their vote, it'd be a 5-5-3, and so therefore, like, it would just be tie, and Devontae goes on the revote most likely. I don't know.
Would they? Well, no. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh yeah, it would be 5-5.
Yeah, for some reason I thought it was a 6-3-3 if it was just 12 votes, and they could have dictated the merge vote by switching sides. But Dallas's extra vote actually works to attention. It makes it so the split is a proper split. So yeah, actually, that was probably a split vote. The extra vote did really matter there, and
it really had that impact. Yeah, and I guess from Jordan and Hannah's perspective, like if you run the numbers, you try to get Adam out, it's going to be a split, a tie, and then you still risk Devontae going home in that revote. Better to go with the numbers and keep yourself safe.
Yeah, I mean, they could have put they could have split it on Devontae and Mia, but it's. I thought they had more. I thought they could have. If it was only 12 votes, they could have changed it. But with Dallas's extra votes, there's nothing they could do.
No. Did they know about Dallas's extra vote?
We got a sense he was telling other people, right? It didn't feel like it was that much of a secret.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't get the sense that Dallas is very forthright with Jordan and Hannah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if Devontae and Boogie said, like, hey, we're putting our votes in Mia as a precaution, they're able to get Hannah and Jordan to do it as well. Mia could have gone home instead.
Yeah.
So there are maybe ways Devontae could have protected himself had he taken the safer route of trying to bust his ally instead of like go for the head. But it's hard.
If Devontae had played an idol, and it would have been 3 on Mia, 3 on Adam, who goes home?
That's hard to say. Because I don't know. I don't know if people just go in Mia. So yeah, we like Adam being around here for the time longer. People to take a stab at it. To be honest, Devontae plays an idol. Mia plays her idol.
Good point.
Right. I think Mia plays her idol if Devontae was her idol, especially after seeing Stacey play an idol. I think Adam then plays his idol. And then it becomes then Megan. We could have seen Hannah idled out. This is the world where like let's say, I don't know where Devontae's idol is coming from. Let's say Devontae, I don't know where Devontae's getting immune from. But let's say Devontae, Mia have idols. Adam plays his idol. Megan plays her idol. Stacey plays her idol. That leaves Hannah exposed. This could be a very ugly world. We could have been warning this episode if there's some sort of idol Armageddon happened.
It's very much Suri and what's that, Game Changers.
Yeah. So I think the final thing I want to talk about is, was this a good vote for players? Was taking Devontae out the right move?
Ooh, I think yes. I think it was. He's smart. He's charming. He's a good comp person. Now that in the post-merge world, like, you have to consider all those things. I think for Hannah and Jordan, like, as an ally, maybe not the best, but I don't feel like their game is sunk because of it.
I think it might not have been good for Adam.
I think Adam still has another shield or two up his sleeve.
I don't know. I think Adam leaving Devontae in the game means you constantly have someone to keep people worried about. So you constantly have people keeping their focus on someone beside yourself. I mean, now that Devontae's gone, what's going to keep people from looking at Adam? Not as much.
Not as much. No.
Right?
It's even more exposed.
I think keeping Boogie and Devontae in the game is kind of a foil to you to kind of like consistently say, hey, we need to be worried about this. And then you kind of bounce around and pick off your own allies as well as Minorlands, much like Tony a la Kagayan. Right? I think, because if you're playing from the top like Adam, I think you need to do that because his alliance at 3 isn't going to be enough. His Brawn 3 isn't going to be enough to carry him to the end. I think he needs to have the brains and the beauty both whittled down simultaneously, and just having, I don't know. I think Devontae staying in the game would have been better, and Mia better. I think if Mia had gone out, that would have been better first game.
So then why was Adam pushing Devontae?
Because Devontae's pushing Adam. I think it is. I don't think Devontae's great for his game just because it is an enemy. Yeah. It's someone who's going to be coming after you. And it's honestly your biggest rival, right? It's like those two have really set themselves up against each other. But I think leaving Devontae in the game gives Adam some more breathing room, or people are going to be unwilling to go for him while Devontae's still around.
Okay.
I think Devontae's going out is great for Rosie. I think it's great for Megan Wolf. It's great. I think it's great for Jordan Hand. I think it's great for a lot of players to have Devontae go out where he goes out.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think if you're Han, I think if you're Jordan, you're fine losing one or two members of your original alliance, and that gives you enough time to solidify those middle players, the brains tribe, really, to come and take a swing back at the original Thrawn. I think you're fine with it.
So you think like Griffin and Stacy are going to go to Jordan and Hannah?
I think in one or two rounds we're gonna see. I think we're gonna see the brains and beauty solidify together and take out Adam. I don't know if it's next episode, but I think at least in 2 episodes it will.
Okay, I'm down for it. Sorry, Adam.
And that's what I say. I think if I think take out Mia here, and then like maybe then push for Stacy next. If you're Adam, like try to get rid of. You want to get rid of like these middle floater people and like force people to really more and more rely on you as you trim their outside options.
Yeah. When you're playing from Adam's position, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I get why Adam was pushing Devontae, but I don't know. I feel like the two of them they should have aligned themselves together, because they would have been great. They are great shields for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
But Adam aligned with Rosie, and that's changes the trajectory of the game.
Yeah, and I just don't think Boogie is going to be as great as a shield as Devontae. Yes, Boogie's a former winner, but Boogie is never going to have himself be the leader target, the leader role that Adam is taking.
No, because he's being cool and calm. I mean, it's smart. I get it.
Mm-hmm. So, is there anything else about this episode you want to talk to as we kind of wrap up here?
Can we talk about those cicadas? I want to go back to the nature shot.
Okay, we're going back to the cicadas. I don't know how you pronounce them. We're going back to talk to me about your thoughts on bugs.
First off, I'm not like a big bug person. I grew up in like during one of those periods where those cicadas were like huge everywhere. Like your summer was completely ruined by it. But like it felt like a dragon coming out as it was hatching. Like I don't know where Casey got it, but not to make, maybe I'm pulling and drawing and putting meaning in things that have absolutely no meaning. But it felt like who is it? Erica from Survivor 41 talking about like the lion and the lamb, right? Like you've got this shell and like this dragon that's coming out ready to attack. It was kind of beautiful. I mean, again, not a bug person, but just watching it form, like, what is it? And I was mesmerized. I was fully mesmerized.
Normally think of metamorphosis as imagery, like emerging from the cocoon. Butterflies are so much prettier and nicer than cicadas are so large. You're like, oh gosh, perhaps they're so foreign and
butterflies
scary.
Around at the time. I don't know. But maybe that is it. It's a metamorphosis, right?
So who is the cicada of the season? Who is the one emerging from their shell to win the season?
I'm gonna give you 2 names. I'm gonna give you Mia and I'm gonna give you Hannah.
Interesting. Okay, I don't think I'm on the Mia train. I'm gonna say I think I don't know who. It's gonna be either Dallas or Griffin, and then Hannah.
I can see Griffin.
Yeah,
I don't see enough from Dallas yet to really get that sense.
Considering he dropped the quote, like I feel like I really have my finger on the pulse of this game. We really get a sense of why is he doing what he's doing. He's like, I need Devontae out because Devontae, the ship has sailed. He needs to be, and like I feel like we got a really good clear understanding of why he's making this move, why he's doing it, and where he's setting himself up. And maybe it's just the conventional he gave, and we only got, and that is what it is. But I just felt like he gave such a good, clear picture of his game and where it's going. And I see Dallas as being very deep in the middle of this merge tribe, that I don't think Dallas is going to be under threat, because I think whichever way things break, people will need Dallas.
Yeah, he is positioned well in the center.
And
especially with Stacy coming back into the game. Yeah. I think that's good for him. Even Griffin coming back into the game is good for him.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's like instead of him and Brains making kind of being this lone Brains contingent, he actually, not only there's still like the bronze versus beauty, but he has more people to work with.
Yeah. No, he is well positioned. I will give you that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have to talk about player of the week, the Bloomy. Last time when we discussed this in episode 3, we both unanimously gave it to Griffin. I don't know if we'll be as unanimous here in terms of the Bloomy. Oh man, I think I know who I want to give it to. It's hard though. Would you like me to go first? Or would you like to go first?
I'll let you go first. You're the host.
I think I'm going to give it to Megan Wolf. Braun Megan for the episode. You know, I think her alliance came out on top. She basically got a free idol that Adam gave an idol handed to her. Now, I will say some cons. Hannah clocked her. Right? Hannah is quite aware she is.
Yep.
I think the way the fake idol was put into play, not ideal. But I think large scale, I think this is a good start to Megan Wolf's merge game. I think, and runner-ups, Adam as coming out on top. I'll Mia shout out for holding on to her idol. I will give Hannah a shout out because I love the confessional and her positioning herself. And I'll give David a shout out because no one's even mentioned his name until this episode, right? Talk about undercover, right?
I am actually completely aligned with you, Stephen.
Mm-hmm.
I think Megan is the one. From a
okay.
Of this episode, I really loved her positioning. Even if everything wasn't perfect,
Mm-hmm.
the way in which she was laying foundation, getting trust,
Mm-hmm.
building deeper relationships, outsmarting people. For me, it was Megan.
Yeah. Okay. Well, shoot, we are in alignment again. I like this.
Maybe next time we won't be. We'll see.
Maybe next time won't be. I think before we get to prediction next episode, I just want to make one last eulogy for Devontae. Devontae had a fantastic, wild pre-merge game, and I honestly think his undoing was Alyssa getting voted out. Still, we know that was not his plan. He was completely blind to the Alyssa vote, but I think losing Alyssa lost him the Brains tribe, and that lost him the votes needed the Marshall at the merge to come out ahead of Adam. I think had that gone differently, had he been able to keep Alyssa, pull in the Brains tribe, right, and then target Adam, I think this would have been a wildly different game. But I think losing Alyssa really lost him a lot of options and flexibility, and it was not what he wanted, but it just was what happened.
Yeah, he needed a stronger advocate. Boogie seems to be a good advocate for him, but not as strong or as convincing as Alyssa was.
You need an advocate. You need an advocate with more other tribe connections. It was kind of a twofer. Mia is fantastic. Mia was on his side. Mia voted for Adam, but Mia's, it's bad to say, was not bringing as much to his future game as Alyssa was. Alyssa certainly was a bigger threat. Don't get me wrong, but I think Alyssa could have brought more people in and been a bit better strategic ally.
Absolutely, 1,000%.
So, but what can you do when he didn't vote her out? The rest of his tribe did. So,
yep. But they also just saved him too. I mean, I know that was a previous episode, but that was wild getting all those bullets.
It was a fantastic moment, right? And honestly, I think he goes out in pretty good humor. And I think having survived what he did, it's hard to be upset.
Yeah. You had a good run. You made it to the merge, which in an all-star season really is the short of winning.
Mm-hmm.
It's really what you hope for.
Yeah, and considering the jury started at Final 12, we're likely seeing a Final 3, right?
Yep.
Unless we have some. And if we do have a Final 2, I'd rather see an extra jury vote versus a jury removal.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of like the jury removal.
Oh, I just feel like you get to these games, you want to play, you make the jury, you're so excited, and nope, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm all about feel good moments versus feel bad moments in Survivor games.
It sucks for the jury member, absolutely, but you don't know. Having a jury member have an extra vote really complicates getting them on the jury.
I think I liked what Surviving Real Fit did last season, where Final 3 had their own challenge. And whoever won got to secretly give an extra vote to a jury member. The jury member would not know until he went up and voted at Final Tribal Council.
If it's that way, agree. Hard agree. But if it's someone has it and they're voted out and then they have it at jury, which I've seen in past LRGs, it's
not as big a fan of that.
Yeah.
So Where are we going from here? What's happening episode 9?
I know you think Adam's going potentially. I don't think it's him. I think he's still got a good like 3-4 more rounds before he's in jeopardy.
Okay, you think he gets cut final 8 or 9 versus 10, 11?
Yeah. I see him going further. I feel like he's going to get blindsided.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who's next, but I don't think it's Adam. I don't think it's any of those three. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. Maybe Mia because she's been on the outs, but she does have the idol.
I think we see a vote split on Mia. I think it's going to be Mia and Boogie.
I can see that.
I think people. There's been a lot of discussion of how is no one targeting these 2 former winners. I think people are going to start pushing for Boogie, but say, hey, we want Mia gone. We'll accept votes on Boogie just in case.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that happening. It would be unfortunate, but I can see it.
And so the question is, does Mia finally play her idol, or does she go home within her pocket? And I hope the answer is she does play it.
I hope she plays it, and correctly.
Yeah. So, all right. I think that's all I have. Is there anything else you want to mention before we wrap up here?
No, I think this has been amazing as always. I appreciate the opportunity.
Troy, thank you so much for coming back to talk with me. I love speaking with you. Is there anything you want to give a shout out for? Anything else you've been involved in? You want to talk about before we wrap up here?
I would love to. Nothing more would bring me more pleasure, but I'm going to keep my mouth quiet on this one.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in and listening. We'll be back next week for coverage of Surviving Bloomington, episode 9. But yeah, take care and pray for all your favorites that they make it through this merge.